Welcome to the Forensic Financialist, where we simplify business and leadership challenges and choose the road that leads to wisdom and excellence. We discuss tough issues facing business and figure out easy-to-implement solutions. Using the rearview mirror approach, we look in the rear view to move towards a brighter future. Here's your host, Jeff Newkirk.
Welcome to the Forensic Financialist, where we aim to improve your business and build strong leaders by presenting understandable solutions. I'm your host, Jeff Newkirk. Now remember, in each episode, my goal is for you, the listener, to come away with at least one nugget of useful information and hopefully to get a little inspired along the way. Well, today we have a very special episode planned. We have successful, well-known entrepreneur and networking guru, Stacy Harris. What a career she has had. Stacy Harris has been an entrepreneur for 15 years, starting out with her own image consulting company called Impressions, and now for the last 4 years as a franchise owner with Network in Action, otherwise known as NIA. NIA is a professional membership-based networking group organization. Stacy owns 5 of these NIA franchises located in the Woodlands, Texas. She describes herself as a professional matchmaker of business owners. Cool description.
Yeah.
The goal of NIA being to bring together like-minded business people who can help refer, build, and support one another's businesses. It is her greatest joy to see her members succeed in their businesses and grow and support one another. In December of 2018, NIA of the Woodlands was named Franchise of the Year. That's pretty cool.
It was, yeah.
How many franchises are there?
At the time, there were about 40.
And you're number one. Nice.
Yes, yeah.
Congratulations. In 2019, Community Builder of the Year, and she has just recently been named as the Vel Institute 2020 Community Leader of the Year. Another awesome and well-deserved award. So Stacy, welcome. It's great to have you. Appreciate you taking the time out to talk with us and tell us all about your experience as a networking guru.
I like that guru.
Yeah, well, you are.
That's a good word. No,
So describe how you got to your being where you are today as the networking guru.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on.
You bet.
And, I think like a lot of people, I am not doing what I had gone to school to do. I went to school to be a elementary first grade school teacher. And, but those skills have definitely, what I learned being an elementary ed major, those have definitely helped me in what I am doing now. But as far as where I got here, I did teach for about 6 or 7 years. And I found very quickly, I love the kids. The administration of the parents drove me crazy. But there was also, for all you teachers out there who are thinking about going out on your own, I say, go do it. And no, we need good teachers for sure. But I knew it wasn't for me because there was always a ceiling as far as to what I could do and how much money I could make. And so within the first few years, I knew right away, I'm not going to do this forever. And so I went through, a series of life's twists and turns and all of that kind of stuff. And I ended up being in retail and sales. And I think...
So you went from teaching to retail sales.
I did, yes. But it was,
I think there's probably some similarities there.
There's a lot of similarity. I mean, that's what I was going to say. I'm very thankful that I did have that teaching background, that I learned how to instruct people, how to educate people on... you may be teaching somebody how to read, or you may be teaching them about the product that they're thinking about buying, but it's the same skill set that comes into play. Mm-hmm. You also, as a teacher, you have to be good with all kinds of personalities. You have your kids have all different kinds of personalities. The parents have different personalities. The administration. You have to learn to be very diplomatic, when to hold your tongue. That's always been the hardest thing for me. But
I can't believe that.
I know, and some people would probably tell you I never learned how, but I really have tried. I have to ask Jesus for help a lot with that.
Well, hopefully Jesus answers.
He does. He hears me. I know he does. Yeah. But, I got into retail sales, and I just found I really had number one, I loved working with adults. I've been working with little kids for a long time, but I loved working with adults. I loved helping people.
But you said there were a lot of similarities.
There are a lot of similarities. We are all first graders at heart is what it boils down to. And
we never really want to grow up.
We don't. Who wants to grow up? It's not any fun.
It's too hard.
Old. It is. It's a lot of work. Yeah. So, with retail sales, I learned a lot about myself. Number one, I realized that I was a really good salesperson, and I was great at reading people, and I could tell them what they needed, and I knew better what they needed when they walked in the door a lot of times than they did. I could identify what those needs were and how I could help them right away. And
I'm a little afraid to ask what I need.
No, I'm a little psychic too, but no. But it was, it's a God-given talent. I can't tell you that it was anything that I worked on or anything like that. It was just a gift that I realized that I had. And I was very motivated working on commission. I loved the challenge of, the goal being set and then meeting the goal. And then eventually the market that I was in, the business that I was in, I started out as a salesperson. I worked my way up to manager. And then the lady who owned the business kind of took me under her wing and really taught me the ins and outs of business, the buying side of things and the merchandising and all of that. And so in kind of that process, I realized that I was a business person. And I truly did not know, because I was always so scared of math. To me, in my mind, business always meant numbers, which for a numbers guy like you, that just makes you so happy. But for me,
there's always a story behind the numbers.
Yes, it makes me want to turn around and run. So, in my mind, if I was going to be good in business, I had to be good at numbers. And you do have to know your numbers. But what I quickly learned is
absolutely
you can also hire it out to people like you who can tell you what your numbers are and, tell me what direction to go in, and I can do that. So, through retail, I had a lot of great experiences. I worked in a number of different markets. I had met my husband at the time, and we were traveling. We got moved around with his job several times. And so I did work in a number of markets. We landed here in the Woodlands about almost 16 years ago now. And I had in the back of my mind, I really wanted to start my own business, but we needed to be planted somewhere before I did that. And when we came here, I'm also a preacher's kid. So I had moved around a lot in general in my life. But when we came here, there was just something about here that I said, okay, this is it. This is home. This is a straight shot to heaven from the Woodlands is what I think. So, and I told my husband, I want to stay here. I'm going to start a business. If I'm going to do this, we got to be here. We got to stay here. And so at that point, once I really made that decision and it really became home, then it was just me making it my home and finding my way here. And I did that through networking. So I joined, I was actually working for somebody else. I'd gotten a job as a buyer for a store here in the Woodlands. And I was working for somebody else when I joined my first all women's networking group. And I went to it, and that was kind of how I started to just make friends and get to know people here. I really didn't know what networking was. I mean, I've always been somebody who just talked to everybody, never met a stranger. That came very naturally.
You don't really seem to be introverted.
Not at all. Not at all. I was as a kid, though. That's the funny thing.
I don't believe that.
Ask my mother. Yes. When you're the preacher's kid, you try to fade into the background as much as possible because you're under the microscope already.
You never want to cause trouble.
Yes.
Or get in trouble.
Or get in trouble because everybody will know. So I didn't really step into my own personality myself until college, truly, until I was away from home. And that was something that I really discovered about myself in college is I really am a friendly person and I really do like to talk to everybody, So I started joining, some of these it was predominantly ladies groups that I joined at first and getting to know people. And one of my friends that I met through one of the all women's networking groups invited me to BNI, which is Business Networking International, which is the world's most successful networking organization to this point. We plan on NIA taking over that spot. But no,
Now a close second to
Ivan
BNI.
Meisner started BNI about 40 years ago. He has been incredibly successful. He's somebody I greatly admire, highly look up to. And so anyway, she invited me to a BNI meeting. And I was still toying with this idea, of going on, starting my own thing, and had gone ahead. I had built my own website and made my own business cards and did all this stuff. And I went and met a group of people who were in very much the same boat that I was in. We were all kind of one-man shows for the most part. We were our business. And this whole world just opened up to me all of a sudden. And I realized the potential of a group of business owners getting together, talking about their businesses, educating one another about what they do, and then going out and being each other's sales team and promoting one another. At the same time, being resources to one another.
Because a lot of these folks feel like they're out there,
like you're by
own.
yourself. And I very much felt that way. My husband has been incredibly supportive. I could never have done what I have done if it had not been for him and his steady 9-to-5 benefits, kind of job. I mean, I would never have been able to go out on my own.
There's a huge risk associated with being an entrepreneur.
Yes. And so I'm so grateful for my steady Greg, that has allowed me to go and fly by the seat of my pants a lot. But it was very lonely because he is not an entrepreneur. He doesn't really, that isn't his thing. He is your steady corporate 9-to-5 kind of guy. Yeah. The whole entrepreneur thing still, after all these years, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to him. And so it's not like I could come home over dinner and talk to him about, well, should I do this with my marketing or should I do that?
Yeah.
Or because it was just such a different world for him. It wasn't that he didn't care, but it was just,
it's just different.
It's just different. It is just different. And you don't always need to have everything at home too, so it was just great for me to be in this room full of business owners who, some of them had a little more experience than I did. It was hard to have any less experience than I did really at that point. But, the accountability that came along with it, BNI is great at educating people about networking, how to be a good networker, the discipline of networking and the skill of networking. And so I became very involved in BNI as an organization. And I actually stuck with that group for 9 years. Was a part of it, ended up helping run. I was a part of the leadership of running this region in the area. I used to train all of the incoming presidents that for groups and things like that. So I got all this amazing experience. I really did. So a lot of times people will say, well, BNI is NIE's competition. And I don't ever really want to put it that way because I guess in some ways we can. There's room for everybody. And I still have a great relationship with the people who are in this region, who run BNI, because we are kind of looking for different people. And
the niche is a little bit different.
It is different. But I always would pay my respects and give my gratitude to BNI because it changed my life. I would not be who I am today. I wouldn't have what I have. I wouldn't know the people that I know that I met if it had not been for BNI. And BNI was so instrumental in the people that I met, the resources that they created for me in building what was then my image consulting business. So, they were the people that when I needed tables and chairs for an event or I needed help with registration, those were the people that I called and they came and they helped me, or they just attended the events and they were a part of what I was doing. And, on
such
top of
strong support.
Yes. On top of referring, actual business to me. So, I stayed with BNI, like I said, 9 years. And then I had kind of I tell everybody, I eked everything out of it. I had wrung every drop that I could out of BNI. And it was time, my business, my image consulting,
was no longer
it was dry. It was, yeah. And it was time for me to expand what I was doing with my image consulting business. It had always been feast or famine, with consulting. That's how it is. I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast. And I had started going in much more of a corporate direction where at first when I started out, I was working with individuals and then smaller businesses. And then all of a sudden I had more corporations that were hiring me to do bigger projects for them, PR events and different things like that. So I had decided, as wonderful as the Woodlands is, I had kind of networked this area to death. And I needed to go into Houston, so for the people who are listening who aren't from this area, we're about 25 miles north of Houston. And it's kind of two different worlds. It really is. So I always say I have to get a stamp in my passport to go south into Houston.
A far north suburb.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I had decided in my mind that the next thing for me to do was to really dip my toe into networking in Houston, bigger fish, bigger pond, and hopefully a little more, some of the bigger companies that I was trying to get in with. And
something tells me that you achieved your goal.
You know what? Well, that's the funny thing. I never really did, but I didn't have to. So what I did is I sent out an email to a bunch of my friends here. So this is again networking, right? The people you know. So I sent out an email to about 20 people in this area and said, after all these years with BNI, I've decided to leave. I'm going to start networking down in Houston. I want to do the same thing down there that I've done here. Building my network. So if you know of any good networking groups down there, I'm planning on like one day a week. I'm going to go hit a breakfast, lunch, and a, after hours kind of deal and build my network there. So if you know of any good groups, I would love to hear about it. And one of my friends here emailed me and said, I know this guy.
By the way, yeah.
He was the very first franchisee with this organization called Network in Action. And you give him a call. Here's this information. I'm sure he would invite you to come to one of his meetings. So I did.
Little did he know what he was in for.
I will never be able to. I had coffee with him. We get together usually around this time of year. It's like once around Christmas. And I can never sit down with him and not become just super emotional because I feel like every year I just have to tell him, like, you just don't understand how you changed my life, and taking the time to answer that email and connect me with that one person. And, that's the beauty of networking. That's the thing. It's so much bigger. People think, oh, I just referred him this, or I just introduced him to this person. But
it's more than that.
It is so much bigger than that because he opened up to me an entire world, a career, stability, and income that I was not even close to having prior to,
which
finding
was
out
a
about
great
networking
opportunity,
action.
but you had to take advantage of that. I mean, you had to go out and make it happen.
Yes, it was hard work. It was for sure a lot of hard work. It was. But, I went to the meeting, and the very first franchisee, his name, it sounds like a made up name, but it is a real name. His name is Moose Rosenfeld, and he is one of the sweetest people. It really is Moose. And
Moose sounds a little intimidating.
And he is one of the sweetest people walking the face of this planet. And he invited me to his meeting, and I went down there, and I was blown away by the professionalism of the group, the businesses that were in the group, the way it was run. It was great. And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to see if they'll take me into this group, and this is how I'm going to make my way here. And it, as things happen, the franchisor, the gentleman who actually started Network in Action, Scott Talley, he was at that meeting that day. And he and I started talking, and in the conversation, he said, what are you doing down here? Why did you come down here from the Woodlands? Again, it's only 25 miles, but it might as well be, 2 different states. So I explained to him what I was doing, and he just said, Stacy, he said, with all the contacts you have, your background, and everything, with my image consulting business, I had worked with just about every nonprofit in the area, different specialty groups. I'd worked with a lot of the bigger businesses, some of our oil and gas companies, things like that. I knew an inordinate amount of people. I really did. And he said, with all of these contacts that you have, your experience in networking, why don't you just find an IA franchise for me and start one up in the Woodlands? I need somebody north of Houston. And I tell people, like, it was kind of like somebody, the little cartoons that we used to watch. So I don't think they come on anymore. But when somebody got hit in the head and you'd see the little birds and stars flying around their head like a halo. You remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's kind of how I felt. I mean, it was like, as my grandmother used to say, she was poleaxed. So that was how I felt. And I just remember kind of like my ears ringing and thinking, oh my goodness, why don't I do this? This is a great idea. And I literally left there. I got in my car. I called my husband on the way, and I said, honey, guess what? We're buying a new business. And he goes, we already have one. And I said, yeah, but
time for something else.
This one is even better. So, that's how I got into it. 6 weeks later, I was signing the paperwork. I did an interest meeting. I sent out an email to a bunch of people that I knew around here and said, I'm starting a new business, and I'm going to host a meeting. I would like just an information meeting, and I just want to invite you to come. There's no commitment on your part. I'm just trying to get the word out about what I'm doing. If you want to be a part of it, great. If you don't, but you'll tell somebody about it, even better,
Right.
And so I had 75 people that came to the interest meeting. And I had enough
That's pretty
people
impressive.
that signed up on the spot for me to just go ahead and purchase 2 franchises. And
So not one, but 2.
Not one, but 2. So I started 2 in August of 2016.
So you knew at the time that you had a gift.
I did. Yeah.
And that gift is more than just being a networking guru, but it's bringing people together,
Connecting
to help them understand the importance of networking and what it means to them in their own business or in their lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more than just being a business owner and needing to get out and meet other business owners. We need to network just in our personal lives.
Yes,
really.
for friends. And truly, like, the relationships that I have developed, the friendships that I have, with the people who are my members, with the people that I've met over the years. They are lifelong friends. They are people that I know I can count on, know I can depend on, know when I call or text them, I'm going to get an answer right away. And know that if they don't know the answer, they know somebody who does. There's somebody through our grapevine that's going to be able to help us. And
that's wonderful.
It is. I mean, it's such a wonderful thing. And I tell people all the time, I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. It's not just networking. It's not just throwing some business somebody's way. When we're sending clients to one another, we're making connections for people. We are helping people pay their mortgages and send their kids to college and take their bucket list vacations. And, all of these things, they add up and they are important. And
no question.
I mean, that one introduction that my friend gave me, to Moose Rosenfeld opened up an entire world.
And people don't always understand that it's not just that one introduction. It could be that introduction and then another and then another and then another.
Yeah.
So it takes time. It's not like you start networking today and tomorrow there's tons of business coming your way.
Right.
It's something that you have to work at and do over a course of time.
Yes.
It's not. And for some, it's not just, it doesn't come naturally. So for some of those folks that may struggle a little bit with networking, and this year with COVID, I mean, with everything on Zoom, it was challenging. But so how do you help those people understand how to network if they've never networked before, or they're really struggling because everything's on Zoom?
Yeah. I actually do quite a bit of, pre-COVID, I did quite a bit of training, instructing and things like that with different groups, and where we would talk about that. And I mean, it's funny because most of the groups that would bring me in, it was a room full of introverts who they were bringing me in because they hated to network, and so
do you think some people that say they hate to network is because they're just afraid to?
It is a fear.
Know what they need to do to get out and meet people.
And I think that the first thing that they think of is walking into a room full of people that they don't know. And that's very daunting. I mean, even for me, that is daunting at times, depending on the size of the room. It really can. Of course. It can be very
that's
overwhelming.
Just human nature.
Yeah, for sure. But, if you can go into it's mindset. I mean, like everything in life, it is what you believe about it, what you think about it. So, for people who are introverted, there are some tips that I like to give them as far as, kind of changing their mindset about networking. And, the first one that I like to tell people is, instead of going into it with this mindset of, I've got to get this and this and this and this out of it, it's going into a room with the attitude of, I'm not walking into a room full of strangers. This is a room full of potential new friends I can make. And these are people who maybe I have something of value that I can share with them. I might know of a good book they need to read. Or, that's another thing. You put a book into somebody's life, that can be life-changing right there.
Absolutely.
So if you can go into it with, I'm going to walk into this room and I'm going to help as many people as I can.
Always add value.
Yes. Leave everybody better than you found them.
If you go into a room and think, this is what I need to get out of it, then you're kind of missing the boat. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about what you can do for other people. How can you serve other people?
Yeah.
And in that thought process, you're adding value to them.
Yes.
And I think that automatically alleviates a lot of
and
anxiousness.
pressure that you're putting on yourself. If you're going in there going, I have to walk away from this with 3 new clients, chances of that happening are slim and none. But if you can go in there, just like I said, with this attitude of, I'm going to help as many people as I can, gain some friendships, start the beginning, cultivating relationships. Dr. Meisner, that I talked about earlier, he always said networking is about farming, not hunting. You got to plant the seed. You got to give it time to grow. It's got to have the right amount of rain, the right amount of sun, the right amount of time before a harvest comes.
Yeah, it's not going to be ready for harvest in a day.
No,
right?
exactly.
The crop takes time.
Exactly. Much less in an hour in a networking meeting, So if you can go into it with that perspective of what I can give, I'm going to make some new friends. I'm going to help as many people as I can. Then I think that is good. Also, don't look at it as a room full of people, but look at it as each individual person, one at a time.
That's great idea.
It's kind of that analogy of, when you're walking with a flashlight or in your car with the headlights, you got to keep going. You can only see it as far as the headlights shine.
Right.
It's that way when you're networking. Don't look 10 people ahead. Look at the person in front of you. Because that one person in front of you could be the key to unlocking a door that you've been trying to unlock for a long time. But if you're distracted by the other people that you think you need to get to or talk to, or you think they're more important, or you're just trying to churn through as many people as you can instead of really giving the person in front of you 100% of your attention.
And then the chances are that you won't connect with anybody.
Exactly.
If you're focused on the whole group.
Yes.
Instead of just one individual.
Yes.
You're not going to connect with anybody. But if you focus on one person, you'll connect with that one person. And then you'll probably connect with many other people because you're just thinking of what can you do for that one person.
Yes, how can I make your
life And it's going to resonate to
Yeah.
everybody else there.
It will. And I've seen so many times people will go into a networking event with, I've got to meet this person. I've heard that the president of this company is going to be there, or the person that runs this foundation. That's who I have to talk to.
Yeah. And if I don't meet that person, this is not going to be
Then I've wasted my time, And I just tell people all the time, it is never, number one, you can never have too many friends. You can never have too many resources, and it is never a waste of time.
And you can never help
to pour into
people.
Somebody. You can't. No, you never can. And so, I could tell you stories all day long of people that I have talked to who, at the time, I couldn't even imagine the things that would come back to me because of my connection with them. These are people who were waiters, waitresses, receptionists at my doctor's office, the hair salon, things like that, who have ended up bestowing me, that knowing them has been such a blessing to me. Yeah. And I never, ever in a million years expected anything back from them in any way. It was just that they were the person in front of me, and I wanted to make them feel good.
And I think that's the difference. When everybody is treated the same, and that is with value.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter the position.
No.
It doesn't matter who they are, what they're doing, but if they feel like they're valued, it's going to be a whole different situation.
Yes.
They're going to feel like this means something, and I want to. It's going to change their whole attitude.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to make them feel like I can accomplish something.
Yes.
I am valuable.
I am valuable. Yeah.
I'm not just, whatever, working in this job.
Yes.
I'm more than that.
Yes. Yeah. I had a mentor who once told me, and I've used this 1,000 times, but it's always true. Every dud knows a stud. So the person that you're talking to who you think...
Okay, every dud
you can write that down. Yes, every dud knows a stud. December 3rd, or is it the 4th? It's the 4th, isn't it? This month's gotten away from me. Yeah. Yes, December 4th, 11/15, 2020. Every dud knows a stud. Yeah, and it's so true. You just... And what she meant by that is you never know. You may think that the person that you're talking to in front of you is not going to be able to help you in any way or get you anywhere. But you never know who they know. Yeah.
And if you go in with that attitude, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Man, I found that so many times in sales. For a while, I was in a very high-end luxury retail sales, and sometimes these people they would roll in their luxury cars, or they would roll in on their motorcycle and tattooed from stem to stern, pull out a wad of cash and and most of the time, I would be the one that would go wait on those people because nobody else wanted to. And when I would do that, then it was always a benefit to me. I mean, it kind of got to be a running joke around there. But
you never want to judge, right?
You don't ever want to judge. You don't ever know. You don't know what somebody's background is. You don't
know what they've been through.
You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they have. You just don't know.
Right.
You just don't know. You really can't judge the book by its cover.
You can't. But you know that you can somehow help that person with whatever they need or they're looking for at the time.
Yes.
And that you know that you can add value.
Yeah.
And I think that makes that's the difference maker.
It does. We are all somebody's child.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who deserves to be loved and respected.
No question.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So what a career. What mentors or who has been your mentor? Who have you looked to for that guidance that we all need to have?
Yeah.
Along the way.
Yeah. As far as leadership, I love John Maxwell. I know that you love him too. I love the attitude that he has of servant leadership. And I think, he's really the one that's kind of coined that term. I mean, obviously Jesus was the one who set the example, but
he started out as a minister.
And he did. And so I love that idea of servant leadership that he promotes. I love the humility that he has about how to be a leader, how to be a good leader, and the accountability of leadership. And so I really do just kind of eat up anything that he says or does, books that he writes and things like that. I mean, I just find that there's so much value in that. And then, there are some books that I've read, The Go-Giver, those books, that series, particularly the first one. That book was really life-changing for me and my business as far as that goes. I encourage anybody who has not read that book. It's such an easy read, 115 pages.
So tell us a little bit about it.
It takes about an hour and a half to read, and I still cry at the end every time I read it. So it's actually, have you read it before? You have? Okay. It's a business book. Built on business principles. It's 5 principles of business, but it's also really 5 principles of life that we should all be living by. What I like about it is, because to me, a lot of times business books can be very dry. And they can be...
what do you mean?
When those guys start talking about numbers and all that kind of
stuff.
Oh,
my goodness.
I know. So this is actually told in a story. It's like a parable, really. And so it puts all 5 of these principles into a story form. And so you read about this guy who starts out as a salesman who is looking to hit his quota, make his goal. And he meets a very influential businessman who kind of takes him under his wing, and he walks him through these 5 principles. And at the end, the principles that he has learned, he's applied them not only to his business life, but to his personal life. And he has seen his marriage get better. He feels better about himself and what he has to offer. But he also is really able to change the lives of a lot of people. In the end. And so, I get chills just talking about it, because I have seen that firsthand so many times now, doing what I've been doing as long as I have now. And I know that it's true. And so seeing those principles like just really come to life in my life. And it helped me too, to be able to like put a name on it, to really peg it of, oh, that's what this is. When you do this, this is what will happen. And it's so consistent. So, that's been huge. I had a lady, a local business owner here in the Woodlands, who I actually met at that very first networking group that I went to here. And her name was Susan Thompson, and Susan is retired now. And she was definitely at the end of her career. But she took me under her wing and really helped me when I was going out with my image consulting business and figuring out, you have to figure out what lane you're going to be in. And there were a lot of things that I could do and a lot of things I was good at. But she was the one who sat me down and said, you got to focus and you got to figure out what you tell people you do.
Right.
Because if you do a little bit of everything, then it's a lot of nothing. And nobody's
going to hear you.
Nobody knows what you really do.
It's got to be a simple message
yes.
that people can really latch on to.
Yes.
And, people have to understand it. You have to be able to repeat it over and over and over.
And you got to be consistent with it. And so she was the one who loved me enough to sit me down and say, you're confusing people when you stand up and do your 60-second introduction at these things, And so what she did, not only did she, have the love and respect for me to do that, but she also committed to me that for 1 year, for the next year, every Friday, we're going to have lunch together. And I'm going to help you with your business. And we're going to talk about your numbers. We're going to talk about potential clients. We're going to talk about whatever you need to talk about, that week. And so we did that. There was no monetary exchange of any kind. But she helped me so much. She had,
and she obviously saw tremendous potential. So what you could do for so many other people. And what a wonderful story.
So I am very, 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 very grateful. Very grateful to her.
So the numbers are important for any business.
They
but
are.
It's what happens behind the numbers. That's the story. We all need to have a sustainable business model.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean anything unless there's passion in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you obviously have passion for what you do. And
I
you're
do.
very
I'm
good at
blessed.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
So along the way, you've had some tremendous accomplishments, received many awards. Is there any, and all well-deserved?
Thank you.
Are there any awards or any situations, circumstances that really stick out as, I'm really proud of that one, or, I look back and that was a real life changer?
It was great to be named the franchise of the year. That was a huge honor. Number one franchise of the year. And if you knew the backstory to what that year had been like for me, my husband had almost died in February of that year. And
you really embody perseverance. Really? I mean, we all need to have perseverance.
We do. Resilience. Yeah, resilience for sure. And that was just, it was a nightmare. I mean, the circumstances, he was away on a business trip when he collapsed. He was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. His condition, less than 5% of people live. He actually had two different things going on. Less than 5% of people live through one of those things, much less both of them. Less than 1% usually survive what he actually had.
Wow.
And so he had an abdominal aortic aneurysm and an aortic dissection. So the aneurysm that was in his chest was so large that it actually tore his aorta apart. It dissected from top to bottom. So your aorta is pretty important as it feeds every limb and organ in your body. Yeah. And he was away on a business trip in Baton Rouge, Louisiana when it happened. And so what we went through, just getting him from Baton Rouge back to Houston, we had to wait 3 months before he was strong enough to have the surgery that he needed to correct the problem, which meant we were like living on a time clock for 3 months. It was I can't even describe. And then the surgery itself was major. His recovery was, 18 months long. And, our lives are forever changed. I mean, we're kind of marked by before Greg got sick and after Greg got sick. That's how our lives are now. And so that year that I was named franchisee of the year, it was that year.
Oh, my goodness.
And
how did you make that happen?
I didn't. And that's why I'm telling this story, because this really isn't me. Through it all, if you've ever been a caregiver, between doctor's appointments and administering meds and making the trips down to the hospital and, all this kind of stuff. I mean, that in itself is a full-time job pretty much. And then you throw in like the mental anguish and the emotional part of it and everything else.
It's very draining.
So I felt like, at best I was able to put maybe 20 hours a week in the NIA, and my members were amazing. I mean, there were some days where I was planning on going and running a meeting and something would happen and I couldn't. I needed to be there with him. And I would have to call one of my members and say, can you run the meeting for me? And they would step up and they would do it. And
that says a lot.
And it was just, I cannot tell you like the number of calls and text messages and Facebook messages that I got and, just all of those kinds of things. And really, I mean,
that's servant leadership in action.
If we had the time, I would tell the story of how we actually got Greg from Baton Rouge to here. It it was a David and Goliath kind of battle to get him here. And it was strictly my networking contacts that made that happen. And so they literally saved Greg's life, the people in my network. And how do you ever put a price tag on that? I mean, it's, people ask me, how much does it cost to be a member of your group? And I'm like, well, what's it worth to you? You really can't put a price tag
What's
on
the
that.
cost of
not being a part of it? Yeah. And so, through that year, I made my meeting as much as I could. I let my members know, I'm here. I continued to check on them as much as I could, and kept in touch with them. And they kept in touch with me too. I hired a wonderful young man named Trey Colston who worked with me that year, you talk about throwing somebody to the wolves. That poor boy, he started working for me the week before Greg's surgery.
Oh my goodness.
And he just figured it out. He was right out of college and he was amazing. And so I had him and he helped me keep everybody together. And then when Greg did have his surgery, like I said, we had to wait 3 months from the time when he got sick until we could have the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
I could not leave his side for 6 weeks. Somebody had to be with him all the time. And I literally had to, I called my very first member. Her name is Lucille Hutton. She was the first person that ever joined NIA. Mm-hmm. She joined one group. Her husband, Jeff, joined the other. She joined for him and we told him about it later. But he's okay with it now. And, but I called Lucille and Lucille is like kind of like a mama to me. And I called her and she had taken care of 2 parents who were dying at the same time of cancer. When she was about my age. And I called her and I just said, I am so tired. I can't even think. And I don't know how I'm going to do this. How do I take care of him and run my business? And she said, Stacy, you can't. This is where you ask for help. And
it's okay to ask for help.
Yes. And tell us what you need. And I said, I literally need somebody to step in and run my business for me for the next 6 weeks. And she said, okay, make a list of all the things that need to be done and we will figure it out. I'm going to call you back in 30 minutes. And I said, okay. I made my list. She called me. She had enlisted 5 other people to help her. And between the 6 of them, they divided up my responsibilities. And I literally walked away from my business for 6 weeks. And they ran
an incredible story.
They ran all the meetings. We have a weekly lunch. They took care of all the lunches. They took care of all the meetings.
Wow.
Our personal development classes, our monthly coffees that we do. They ran it all for me. I would run up and say hi if I could, if I could get away. If I couldn't, I didn't. And so his surgery was May 21st, and I did not return back to work until the 2nd week in July. When I came back the 2nd week in July, they gave me a stack of index cards about 1.5 inches thick, and on every index card were 3 or 4 people that my members were referring to me to get in touch with to talk to about NIA.
Oh my goodness.
So I walked into...
So they were helping you build your business.
Yes.
Because of the positive impact you've made on them.
It was such a gift. It was such a gift. Yeah.
But that doesn't happen automatically.
No, it doesn't.
It happens because of, you're saying it earlier, you have to, it takes time. You have to plant the seed. You have to nourish. You have to cultivate.
Love and nurture.
Yeah, it takes time and effort to do that.
Yeah.
And kudos to you for all of that.
Kudos to them. We would not still be here if it had not been for them, truly. So I walked back in July and I had this stack of referrals and I started working through them. And a ton of those people ended up becoming members. And between July and October, I made up for lost time so the number of members that I kind of, didn't get during the time from February to July, when Greg was so critical, I made up for between July and October. And then we ended up finishing the year. We had this awards dinner. And when they announced me as the #1 franchisee, I mean, I just was dumbfounded. I was just happy to still be in business,
But it was truly a team effort. Right?
It was.
You had a strong team, and they wanted to work with you and for you because they saw you as a true leader, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to follow you. They wanted to to be a part of what you're
Yes.
doing, and they wanted to see you succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's an incredible story.
So it really is. It really is. And and that's what networking is. It's investing in one another. It is being interested in each other's lives outside of just the work
And always adding
part of
value.
it, the business part of things. It is, really being interested in the person themselves. And I've always worked really, really hard to do that, for people to know that it's not about what you can do or what you can sell or what product you have to offer, but it's about who you are as a person. And
Absolutely.
and it came back to me 1,000-fold.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now what's the future for Stacy Harris? I mean, so many accomplishments and awards, but now, what's the future like? 5 years, 10 years? Do you have a plan?
Continued growth. Yes. I would love to really help build the brand of NIA. We are I believe we're in like 37 states now. But I would love to continue, to help build the brand to become bigger. We really would love to be an international company. I would love to be instrumental in that, in helping that.
Is there any reason why that would not happen?
I really can't see one. I really can't.
I dare anybody to tell you no, or that you can't.
Yes, they should not do that. That's for sure a challenge for me. Those are fighting words.
You will prove them wrong.
Yeah, I am. I would love to. I had planned to add a 6th franchise in 2020, and of course, 2020 happened.
Wow.
So 2021
is going to be so much better.
I pray. Yes. So I'm planning on adding number 6 in 2021. Maybe 6 and 7. We'll see how things go there as far as that. I love to do training and consulting with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to do public speaking. Mm-hmm. So I definitely would, that's really a big goal of mine, is to be an international speaker. And it's not so much about being in front of so many people, about being on the stage, but it's more about, I have a story that is powerful and I have lived it. And I really feel like when you're in front of a bigger crowd, the more lives you can influence, the more lives you can change.
Absolutely.
And so I would love, more opportunities once people are getting back out and doing big conventions and all of that kind of stuff, to be on the big stages and be able to share my story and share with people what I've learned through networking and how it can build your business, change your life, make you a better person, and all of that good stuff.
Well, something tells me that is going to happen.
Thank you.
Sooner than later.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Yes.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking time today.
Yes,
it's been a great conversation, and I can't wait to see all the feedback from our listeners, because I know they're going to have all kinds of wonderful things to say. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is a great podcast.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about Stacy Harris or NIA?
Yes, if you can email me, it's Stacy, STACY at networkinaction.com. And you can also call 832-837-9975.
Excellent. And is there a website?
We have a corporate website, but it does not go directly to me. So really the best way to get in touch with me is through the email.
Okay. Very good. Mm-hmm. And one more time, just in case people missed it.
Stacy, STACY, no E. If you put an E, it's not me. That's what I tell everybody. Stacy at networkinaction.com.
Perfect. Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another great episode, such important and valuable information. I hope you all got at least one nugget out of today's podcast. I think it would be impossible for you not to. But I'd love to know what that one thing is, or several things, hopefully, that you got out of today's podcast. Please share it with me at jeff@understandablesolutions.com, or you can go to my website at understandablesolutions.com and add it to my blog. I'd love to hear from you. As always, I'm so grateful that you listened. I hope today is a great day for you, and I hope tomorrow is even better. And before we close out, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things this December. This is a special time of year. As a person of faith, which I am, this is a really important time to take stock in all that we have. So I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, be thankful. Be thankful for your friends. Be thankful for your family, for your acquaintances, for your job, for your home, for anything. There's always something to be thankful for. Number 2, reach out to an old friend or someone you want to connect with and just wish them well. You will be surprised at how much that will mean. And number 3, prepare for an incredibly awesome 2021. This past year has been crazy, but next year is going to be really incredibly awesome, but only if we make it that way. And it's up to us. Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate you listening. Have a great day. Peace, everyone.
You've been listening to the Forensic Financialist, where we simplify business and leadership challenges and choose the road that leads to wisdom and excellence. To learn more about Jeff, visit his website at understandablesolutions.com or email Jeff at jeff@understandablesolutions.com. Mentioning this podcast will get you a complimentary discovery session with Jeff. Until next time.